If you're not doing keto or carnivore right, then you're never going to have long-term success doing it. But how do you know if you're doing it right? Well, I'm going to give you 4 questions you can ask yourself to help you determine whether or not you're doing keto or carnivore in a way that is right for you. And I'll let you know a little secret. That's all that really matters. It's not about finding what's best or finding what's perfect. All that matters is that you can achieve your weight loss goals, your health goals, that you feel great doing it, because that's the way that you can continue to eat this way for the rest of your life. And that's the whole point. Now, that's not to say you won't need to make tweaks along the way or that the way you end up doing it is the best way. But what's best doesn't really matter if it doesn't work for you. The goal is not perfection. And the goal is to find a way of eating that allows you to achieve your goals and maintain it for decades to come. Now, keep in mind, there are some basic principles for the keto or carnivore diet. You want to stay between the lines and not get in the ditch. But within those principles, there's a lot of flexibility. So the first question is, how do you feel? Now, one caveat about that, if you've just jumped in hard with both feet, you may not feel great for the first week or two, or maybe even 3. But once your body's kind of adapted to this way of eating, you ought to feel good. And if not, you probably should consider making some tweaks to what you're doing. If you're still eating a lot of vegetables, for example, maybe you want to cut those out for a month and see how that makes you feel. If you're doing carnivore, maybe you need to add more fat into your diet or maybe a little more protein. You really need to listen to your body. I mean, if you get up on Wednesday and you don't feel great or you have some achy joints, well, ask yourself, what did you eat on Monday or Tuesday? Those kind of things are important. We learn as we move along. And that's the great thing about eating this way. We begin to feel good. And when we eat something that actually makes us feel bad, we realize it right away. So keep track of those things. And listen, ask questions. Even though no one can tell you exactly what's right for you, most of us have probably experienced some of the same things that you have. In fact, if you're watching this video and you've gone through any of those kind of things, leave your experiences in the comments below. Give some advice because it really helps people when they watch this kind of video. The second question is, am I achieving my weight loss and my health goals? Look, this is vitally important. It's why we do what we do. And if we're not making progress, then we can get pretty discouraged. Just because you hit a stall for a few weeks, that's kind of normal. So don't get discouraged about that. And some health issues take a lot longer time than others. I've seen pretty radical changes in some health issues, and some have taken, a couple of years to kind of resolve themselves. But if you're not seeing progress over, 3 or 4 weeks or a month, then make some tweaks to what you're doing. I mean, maybe cut back on the total carbohydrates that you're intaking. Don't get sucked into the counting net carbs and eating a lot of processed food. It's just going to set you back. Some people find that cutting back on dairy really helps, or certain vegetables really cause a lot of inflammation for them. If you're at a stall that lasts more than a couple of weeks, well, go to 1 meal a day for a couple of days, or possibly try some intermittent fasting. Just do those things until you find what actually works. The third question is, do you still have major food cravings? Now, this is a big one. We can all white knuckle our way through for a while, but most of us, there's going to come a day when our willpower and our discipline, they just fail us. And that is a train wreck waiting to happen. So if you're still dealing with those kind of issues in your life, one of the best things that you can do is try to identify what triggers them. If sweet things, for example, trigger your cravings for carbs, well, you probably need to cut those sweet things out. For example, if you put sweetener in your coffee, well, try to wean yourself off of that. If you use sugar, go to stevia or go to monk fruit. If you're still eating processed foods, that's something that really does trigger. We don't realize the amount of carbs we're really still taking in if we're eating that kind of stuff, even if they're keto things. So keep those kind of things in mind. And then other things like stress, emotional eating, eating out of boredom, we can't always change all of those things magically. We all have stress in our life. We all deal with emotional situations, but we can at least identify that that's one of the things that triggers our cravings. If we're aware of it, at least we have a fighting chance to kind of move past them. And I want to encourage you, the longer that you move along in this journey, those things become less and less. I hardly ever have cravings anymore. I did in the beginning, but I've been doing this for a long time, almost 4 years. So don't be discouraged if you do with that for a while, but at least be aware of be aware of the fact that long term, you don't want to have to go through life constantly being driven by cravings or constantly obsessing about those types of food. It's just so detrimental and it's stressful. So think about that. Try to deal with those issues the best that you can. Number four is not really a question and it may be the hardest. You have to embrace the fact that no one can tell you the right way to do keto or carnivore. It's something you've got to learn on your own. If somebody gives us the answer, it's so much easier and it's so much less stress. But when it comes to this way of eating, ultimately, you're the only one that can really discover what works for you. And that's all that matters. And it takes patience and it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a while to figure out where to find your sweet spot. But when you come out the other side, you'll have a knowledge and an experience that no one can take away from you. You will have learned through the process of what really works for you. And that's something that you can do for the rest of your life. One final tip: don't let all those people out there telling you what's best or what's perfect to distract you or discourage you. None of that matters at all. If you do 75% of what's perfect, well, you've added decades of health and productivity to your life. And that's all that we care about. What matters is that you discover the way that works for you, and what other people think about whether you put cream in your coffee or pepper on your steak or any of that other nonsense, it just doesn't matter. All that matters is that you discover the right way to do keto and carnivore, and the only right way is the way that works for you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.